Hi, it's Cayman Reynolds, and welcome to tonight's live stream. I hope you have several beekeeping questions, and if not, we're just going to have a lot of good conversation, talk about bees, and maybe you'll pick up a thing or two, get a couple laughs, or make fun of our special guest, which I enjoy doing. But he's probably better at making fun of me than I am of him. So you'll get to see him in a little bit, and we'll talk about some cool things. We can talk about the Bee Expo if people have questions about that as well. And one of the things I want to go ahead and get out of the way is our new Beekeeping 101 series. That's actually on my Grow 365 channel. And so we are going to have the Beekeeping 101 series, and it's the most basic entry level series that we've ever done. We have done some basics of following along with the nuke, but this one we're just going, hey, this is bee bread. This is how it's made. This is capped brood. This is larvae. This is worker brood. This is drone brood. This is this type of hive tool. This is why I personally don't like this hive tool. Smoker starting, you name it. It's a complete series, and Daniel does a very good job making it look very nice with his high definition camera. And so if you know of any new beekeepers, or if you have a beekeeping club with a lot of new beekeepers, let them know the series is to help them get started and get going. Chris, do you mind dropping that link into StreamYard when you get a chance for that channel? All right. Bring on the questions. Eric, I appreciate you being on that Grow 365 channel and our Beekeeping 101 series, and for the comments and the encouragement. Okay, let's see. Look, everyone, it's Cayman Reynolds. It is. I'm all over the place right now and stretched really thin. Hence, I haven't shaved. Whenever my beard gets any longer than this, you know it's a sign that I'm busy. It's just FYI. If it gets really long, you know things are rough. Hey, Jonathan. So what are you putting them on right now, if you don't mind our asking? And thank you for being one of our members as well. Appreciate you very much. We have several members in the group. And I believe this is South Korea, if I remember correctly. I can't pronounce all of that right there, but pretty sure that's South Korea. Alan Wheeler, they've been with us for maybe as long as since the first year. I'm pretty sure they've been with us a long time, and several others in the group. So, oh, our smoker method helps you. So I'm curious how old that video is, because we have some smoker videos that were our first. How to light a smoker in 60 seconds was one of the first videos that ever performed well for me. And that was like 7 years ago. And I went back and watched it, and it was terrible. It was not very good at all. Hello from Connecticut. All right, everyone's piling in. So, couple updates real quick. Let's talk about bee season here. So we're in the middle of our honey flow. Our honey production colonies are averaging over 2 medium supers a piece right now, ready to extract. We're adding more supers to some that already have 4 on them. Our best colonies have 5 to 6 medium supers, with the average colony probably having 4 medium supers on them. We have a lot of splits going. It's easy to raise queens during this time. It's easy to make splits during this time. And so that's part of the reason I'm quite busy and not able to do some of the stuff that I would like to do, is because with the YouTube channel, we're doing all this different bee stuff. It's an exciting time, but there's just never enough time in April and May in Tennessee for all the raising of the queens. And I caught a swarm yesterday. I'm pretty sure it's from one of my hives. Caught a swarm today, and pretty sure it was from one of my hives. And we're currently running just a little under 300 colonies, fixing to take a few dozen up to Chris and get that squared away so that Chris can then be bothered, and I will have a little bit of relief over here. Hey, Weebles, thank you so much for becoming one of our YouTube members. We really appreciate that. Yep, that's right. Beekeeper Moon. I remember that. And I appreciate the emails. I'm not always really good at getting back to everyone's emails, but I cannot get to everything. But I'm trying to. But that doesn't mean I don't always see stuff. Oh, Jake Osborne is in the house. He's a Kentucky beekeeper. and helps us with the trade show and the conference. Hey, Gigi. North American Honeybee Expo. Got my email to reserve my room. How early should I plan to arrive? Monday, Tuesday, since we are doing all day Thursday, will we need more setup time? That's a good question. And that's something that we need to get onto, Chris, is um, going ahead and getting one of the guys, Corey, Josh, or collectively figuring out what we want to do about volunteers this year. Gigi was one of the people that graciously helped pack all the bags and other things. And so anyone that came to the show, Gigi may have handled that stuff. And so if it was unorganized, maybe it's her fault. No, they did a great job. I really do appreciate you helping with that. So Thursday, we will have lectures going on. We won't have the trade show going on any earlier, and the vendors really feel like they need more time to set up, and it's going to cost us so much more to do those exposition rooms. It's a phenomenal price, and then none of the vendors want any more time, and I don't really blame them. It's already intense for them. But you're right, we will need to have those bags prepped earlier. So Chris, maybe talk to Corey about that and see what he has to say, and then let me know so I can ignore the message and you remind me a couple weeks later when I've forgotten. All right, I have a question. When the smoker is going, why does the flame keep coming out? So I don't know what you're using for fuel, but what we don't really want is flame. We want a smolder down at the bottom of the smoker, and we really want fire initially, but then we want to kind of chill it out a little bit. So when I'm starting a smoker, I want flames coming out of the top of it. And I'm typically using burlap, pine needles if I can get them, and a couple other fuels like this. But some fuels burn really hot, and I don't like those types of fuels. They may last a long time, but it produces hotter smoke. I love coffee bags. The burlap is great. And I want to start that and get it to where it's shooting flames out the top of the smoker. But then I'm going to roll up some more of the burlap and I'm going to stuff that down in there, and that's going to suppress that and just give me cool smoke for hours. And so I don't know if it's the type of fuel that you're using. I see some folks online that are using a lot of wood pellets and stuff, and they can be used properly. But sometimes I see people getting basically a pretty decent sized fire in there with a lot of wood or scrap. And you definitely don't want a lot of heat and flames. You can burn a lot of stuff. So I think the combination when I've used wood pellets is I get something lighter going, get the wood pellets going, and then on top of that, usually I have something else to keep the wood pellets from falling out, and also to kind of lower the airflow a little bit. That's just my personal experience, but a lot may have to do with the type of fuel. So let me know what you're using. It's a good thing I'm not an arsonist. I can't keep a smoker lit to save my life. Well, the fuel source, and honestly, there was a post on Facebook, and some people might have seen my comment, and I hope that no one thinks that I'm too rough of an individual, but it really does bother me when we have, and hey, everyone's free to their opinion, but if you've only used one type of smoker and you've only used it for a couple of years, you don't know that much about smokers. I'm sorry. You need to have used smokers for 100 hours in a week and 10 hours, 12 hours at a time straight. And then you need to use multiple smokers, and you need to use several types of fuel because there's so many variables with it. And there are people that think that there's no difference from one smoker to the other. Now, maybe between some of the Chinese products, it's that way, but there is a massive difference in the performance of a high quality Dadant smoker versus a $20 Amazon smoker. It doesn't mean that you can't get by with those other ones, but it's just going to be easier to use. I've had Man Lake smokers, and they're Chinese smokers, and Man Lake also has a US model that is produced by Dadant, and they sell that as well. But they have lower quality smokers, and I got one years ago because I thought, how bad could it be? It was so bad I ran it over with my truck, and because I didn't ever want to use it again, and so I made sure of it. And then when I purchased the Hummerbee, they gave me a smoker with it. You would think for a machine that expensive, you would get an American-made smoker, but I got a Chinese one. And so I tried it out because it was on the truck. I hate that thing. I hate it. I can't hardly keep it lit in comparison. It's hard to regulate it the same. So when you've used a Danish smoker, it makes a big difference. So, but the right fuel is important too, and a dry fuel, and starting it properly, knowing kind of how much heat to get to keep it going and long term. That some of that is an art form as well, and a video can help. But honestly, some of that is just doing it enough. You kind of get in the habit of it. And then if it's really damp, it can be really hard, even if the air is just really humid. Well, I try to be humble. Laurel and my mother constantly remind me, and Chris and everybody else, of all of my imperfections and mistakes because there are many. And so they help out with that a lot. Does peppermint oil hurt the bees? So, in high enough concentrations, and if it directly touches the bees, absolutely it does. But so does a lot of essential oils. Most essential oils are in the plant to keep insects away from the plant and to keep other pests and predators away from them. So they can be in low dosages. No, they're fine. Now, this whole peppermint thing just gets rid of all of your small hive beetles. I don't believe that at all. We've tried some of it. We've tried a lot of things that are even more aggressive than peppermint, and it runs them out or towards the bottom board for a while. And as soon as it's gone, things are back where they were before. We've used formic acid, we've used thymol for treatments for mites. That does make a little bit of a dent, but it doesn't last very long at all. And something lighter than that, like peppermint candies, is not going to work any long term period. If it does move them away, and I highly doubt it, they're just going to go away from it. They're going to go to the bottom board. It's not going to, peppermint candies is not enough to permeate a double deep colony and keep those down. Now, if you want to keep small hive beetle populations down, you can do what is legal to do in Australia and use roach bait. Put it in something the bees can't get to it, and it will kill those suckers. It is illegal to do that in the United States. They've been trying for a couple of years to approve a bait that is very natural at killing small hive beetles and is safe for bees. However, it's proven to be expensive, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen. It's very disappointing because there's a lot of peer reviewed research on it. We have scientists that want it done, but the capital just isn't there. But honeybees can even consume this product, and it's okay. You can put it in pollen patties. It's that safe for honeybees because it's just so specifically targeted towards small hive beetles. And I know a commercial beekeeper that runs over 20,000 hives that was able to source the active ingredient, has been putting it in his pollen patties, and the small hive beetles don't ever bother those patties. They'll lay eggs on them just like they normally do, but then the larvae from the small hive beetle eggs emerge out, start consuming the patty, and this product kills them. And so this is the type of technology that we need that's very beetle specific. And it's going to cost a few $1,000,000, and no one's willing to do that. So that's currently where we're at. Maybe somebody will do it in the future. Great year for catching swarms, 10 so far. What's the max number of hives I should have per apiary? Forest, grass, fields mainly. So that really depends on your forage. I typically run 36 to 40 odd colonies to a yard, and it just really depends on your location. And if there's a really good flow year, you could have 100 colonies in a yard if it's a great year. And in a bad year, 10 might be too many. So a lot of it's just really going to depend on the year and your location. But there's also your labor. And if you're doing out yards and you're having to drive out there and mow it and do all these things, there has to be enough colonies there to justify that fuel and time. So for me personally, 32 to 36 is the low end for me. And somewhere 48 is probably the high end. And these are production size colonies. If you're running 5 frame nukes in a yard, you can run more than that. Mike, because the flow started early, what's your best guess on whether it'll end early or end like a normal year? It's really hard to tell because not all plants perform the same way every single year. This is the longest I've ever seen tulip poplar bloom, period. 20 something years. I've never seen them bloom for this long, but we haven't had major winds. We haven't had thunderstorms. We've had a little bit of a drought here. It was really bad in April. It's a little bit better now, but even the rains we've gotten haven't been that tough on plants, and it's been cooler, and that extends the bloom out. And we're still seeing privet. We have a good privet bloom this year. So, so that every year is so different many times. It's really hard to predict. If I was guessing, I would say we're going to end a week earlier, but probably not any more than that. And that's my area in Tennessee. It's just going to vary from location to location and which plants show up because some plants like these conditions and some don't. Are you going to have the honey bar this year? That was a spectacular idea. Absolutely. We're going to grow it. There was a lot of companies, a lot of individuals who just didn't know about it. Usually the first year, there's a lot of people that just miss that kind of stuff because there's so much going on. It is going to expand. We're going to have more Canadian honeys. We're going to have more American honeys. I talked to the Olivares folks while I was out there, and they are wanting to send some of their honey out from Orland, California. And we just want to have a really diverse offering of honey from several cool producers and any individual. It was a really fun experience. And I thought I had gotten to everything. And then I saw a couple of the photos afterwards and I missed a couple of them that I'm like, man, I really wanted to try that one. And I didn't know it was there. So we're going to definitely do that and do better and more. Awesome. Thank you so much. Let's see. All right, so we have got several good volunteers, and we may need more volunteers the next year. We're just going to have to see how that works. While a hive is requeening itself, how do you avoid becoming honey slash nectar bound? That is really hard to do. And the best way to do that is to go ahead and let's say it's a single deep box or a double deep box. Either one of these will work, same thing, and they were doing really good. But the problem of it is now you are going through a requeen. And some people will tell you that if they have no queen, they'll stop bringing pollen in. And that works in some situations, but not if the queen just dropped down and you still have all this uncapped brood that needs to be fed. And so they're still bringing in pollens in. They still want to do that. Of course, you have a powerful flow. This is a problem as well. And these bees in this singles or the doubles just get packed out. The best thing to do when you know this is going to happen is to go ahead and put on some more comb if you have it, whether that's a medium super, whatever that is. And it doesn't mean that they'll always move up into it immediately, but you need them to go ahead and start putting stuff in there a little bit. Then when that queen comes back, they're already going to have places to go with it. And because bees, if there's enough bees in there and the queen comes back and she wants to lay, they can move honey when they want to, but they have to have somewhere to go with it as well. Now, if you don't have comb, then what you can do is take out some of the frames of food and give them maybe some smaller colonies that could use some more food, or stick them in the freezer, stick them in a nuke box or a single, stick them in the freezer, whatever, and then put some foundations in there and they can start drawing those out. When she starts laying, they're just going to have to consume honey and clear the space and start drawing combs. I would do one of those methods, whichever you can do, but comb is always the best. Hey, Dave, good to see you. What do you do when the queen is laying frame after frame of brood that looks picture perfect, but the bees just don't gather much honey compared to the rest of your hives? I'm like, what gives? So, interestingly enough, there's some bees that just aren't really good at making honey. And it's just like, why? A lot of times it's queens that I've raised, and here's one over here from the same graft the year before, whenever it was, and it's got 3 supers, and this one over here looks like it should, and then this one over here, you've given them space and they wanted to swarm even when they had room, and the other one that is laying bricks chose not to swarm and just go to the honey supers. And this is where we see less and less of this, but we always see some of this. And just bees are so genetically diverse, how they react to things. Whenever we put in, let's say, a Viroxan strip or an oxalic acid sponge, like these sponges right here, the oxalic acid sponges Randy makes, every hive seems to do it a little bit differently. You'll have some that'll chew holes in this stuff. You'll have some that'll tear down those Viroxan strips so quickly and spit them out. And then you'll have some that barely touch them. Why? Just different genetics. The best thing that I've noticed is requeening. And so if you start raising your own queens, start selecting from those that swarm less, select from those that are just better honey producers, it really makes a difference. It's hard to be perfect with, but it does really make a difference. I was looking at a yard of bees this year that I'd kind of let go. I'd purchased some queens and I wasn't super happy with them. I got in a bind last year, and they make brood, slabs of brood, but I've never had bees that were this swarmy. And I'm just like, yeah, okay. I didn't have time to raise my own queens last year, and so I let some of these into my operation, and it's been rough. I've never had swarming this bad in a yard, but they just have that disposition. And my other ones, just a couple miles down the road, are producing more honey, and they're doing a better job about swarming, and they're just easier in just about every way. So genetics, Dave, it's a pain in the butt to do, but if you have the time, it's worth it. Okay, so you got the dated smoker then. So we need a good fuel. Start small. I almost start my smoke. Almost always start my smoker with a piece of paper. Maybe it's some junk mail, whatever. Get that paper in there. Piece of newspaper. Then a little bit of burlap. We start with a small piece, and then I want flames jetting out of the top 3 to 4 inches. And I want most of that first burlap piece, I want it 50% at least on fire or more. And then we're just going to put another one down in there. And then we're going to keep puffing it again. Once you get it going and you get that second piece going, at that point, it lasts all day long. As long as it doesn't run completely out of fuel, it'll just keep going. Zach, any tips or suggestions on managing large hives? I'm happy with the number of hives I have. But I do not want to split or create new hives. Zach, that is tough. It is really tough because if you are doing a great job as a beekeeper, you have a great queen, you have strong bees, you have all the nutrition that you need, and the mites are low, you're going to run into swarming, and bees want to do that. It's kind of like growing crops like cucumbers. I was talking about this the other day. We love growing cucumbers, but you have to succession plant those because you can keep harvesting fruit, you can fertilize them, you can do everything that you want, but eventually those things are just going to produce lower quality fruit because the plants are getting older and they're desperate. Their goal isn't to produce 200 pounds of surplus honey for you. The cucumber's goal is not to produce 200 pounds of cucumbers or whatever the number is. Their goal is to produce seed. They want to reproduce those cucumbers, and the bees want to do the same at that point. So you're going to send swarms off, or you are going to make splits, and you can do what is called a demery, or you can make a double screen board type dealio where it's like a temporary split. You can put a queen in there or not, and then you can recombine them back later. But you're basically making a split at this point. Sometimes you can keep your hives from swarming. And a lot of times this is achieved by not using a queen excluder, letting the queens sometimes go up into the supers and lay, and giving them just an unlimited brood nest, so to speak. But sometimes they still swarm anyways. And so I personally recommend go ahead and, after you've gotten the numbers that you want and you're good with that, maybe just purchase a queen, make a split, and sell them to somebody local. Help pay for a new upgrade on extractor, or uncapping tank, or whatever. Because if you do a really good job, Zach, you're gonna, or just let the swarms. If you're okay with sending off swarms and your neighbors are okay with it, just do that. Hey, Beekeeper Moon, I appreciate you watching those videos and for saying that. We definitely want to have bees that have some resistant genetics for sure. We're starting to see those become a little bit more commercially available from sources that I actually think are legit. We've had people in the past that say they have it. I'm thinking years ago, And anyone can say anything. I could be saying I have treatment-free bees and I have this special gentle breed of bees, and I could be charging out the nose because of my popularity. That would be just dishonest, and eventually word would get back around, and hopefully I would be ridiculed and shunned because that's what those people deserve. And if they're taking care of if they're not taking care of their audience. I appreciate you guys spending the time with Laurel and I. It's a Everyone's busy, and so you're choosing to spend time with us. We appreciate that, and we don't want to steer you wrong. We're not perfect, but we're trying to do our best. Hey, came in with virgin queens. At what day would you consider them not viable with not seeing eggs? So if I drop in a virgin queen straight into a hive, typically they're back within 10 days. So I don't go in 10 days though. I'm going to look for around 18 days and I'm going to see if there's eggs. If there's not at 18 days, you can wait till 21, but just pick that sometime between 18 and 21 days. If you either have a laying queen or you just need to shake those bees out, or you can put another frame of brood in there and shake of bees and try again with a queen cell or another virgin. Good evening. Go burlap. Just get it lit and make sure it's burning good. It'll last for a long time. I love burlap. I like the smell of it. The only thing I like better is pine needles, but we just don't have good pine needles around here. It is so easy to light pine needles. It doesn't last as long as the burlap, but it's so easy to start. It's easy to pack. It does a really good job. The smoke is nice and cool. What I want is a fuel that has a low, smoking point, and so I'm going to get the coolest smoke possible. And I also hate like grass clippings and hay because they're good at getting moldy. They probably don't out west, but here in Tennessee where we're very humid, they just get mildewy and moldy, and then I have to smell that, and I smell like that and all that kind of stuff. Okay. My Hilco smoker does good. I used to not put enough pine straw inside it. I started compacting it more and not my smoker and lasts for hours. And I've had a Hilco smoker. I had one of the original models. The newer ones are supposed to be better. They sent one to me, and it could have been a mistake, a bad one, but it fell apart on me within a handful of weeks. So I think it was just a mistake. That's just been years ago, and the newer models are better. I haven't tried those, but I've been using Datant for 20 years, and other than changing out a bellows every now and then, I just haven't had any issues. What is the lowest temperature you can make queen cells and get them mated? So the queens have to be able to fly, but I can raise queen cells at 30 degrees. And I've had it to where we're grafting queens and it's like a high of 40 something degrees. And that night it is 30 something, but that's the time of the year where it could be that temperature, or it could the next day be 80 degrees Fahrenheit. It's just Tennessee weather. I say Tennessee weather, it's spring weather and late winter weather. So the grafting part, as long as you don't chill the larvae and you have a strong, powerful, the graftings, that's no issue at all. Plenty of bees, you'll be fine. As far as the queens go, there really needs to be at least 60-degree days where the queens are able to get some, that's like minimum. We want warm days. We want sunny days, hopefully low wind as well. But we can't get everything. That'd be like the perfect situation. But I really like it to where we're starting to get a lot of mid 60s to 75 before I want to risk those first rounds of queens. To me, even if I have to wait one extra week, it's worth it because there's a lot of work that goes into that. It's not just the grafting. It's really we're going into the hives now. And we're making mating nukes up, and I don't want to waste that brood and that split because I went just a little too early. But I'm looking for at least 65 average. Is it too late in the year to try to make a swarm trap? It really just depends on where you're at and what your location's like. There are some areas that have long flows, and so swarms are mostly happening, especially good healthy swarms, during strong flow times of the year. Pollens, nectars. And so if you're in an area that has long flows and more still to come, there's going to be swarms that are shooting off. I'm shooting off some swarms of my own personal hives here May 8th. And so probably not too late. And if you're further north than me, then you still have even more time. So, get them out there. You just never know. I caught a swarm last week in one of my traps, and I usually start catching them in March. So there's about a 2-month period of good swarm catching. I'll still catch some in June. I can catch some sometimes in July, but usually by that point, these are really weak. And a lot of times, like they'll have a virgin queen and there's a frame and a half of bees. And even if the queen is accepted, if the beekeeper doesn't really help them, give them some brood or do something, they're just not going to build up enough to overwinter here. Hey, Jerome Bee Farm, thanks for being one of our members. And you finally got some rain in central Oklahoma with feeding to keep them alive. Absolutely no stores. Man, I hate to hear that for you. We had a drought pretty bad in April. We weren't having to feed, thankfully. We had gotten enough rain, I guess, before to sustain things, but I hope things turn around for you guys and you continue to get the rain that you need. Thanks for hopping on. Hope things are going to turn around for you. Let's see here. So we are just about to the moment we're going to bring on our special guest. I'm going to take 1 or 2 more questions, and we're going to bring on our guest for about 20-ish minutes or so. And I've never brought him on before. I'm a little nervous about this. Greg says, thinking about making nukes after the flow, what are success rates on summer splits south Mississippi? So a lot of it has to do with how strong you make them, Greg. Do you have pollen flows? So if you have a good pollen flow, that makes a big difference. One of the hardest things about making splits in late June, July in Tennessee is I have little to no pollen. It's robbing season. It's more stressful. And what we really need to overwinter, well, you're further south, so it should be a little easier to overwinter for you. But still, if you're wanting a good performance colony coming out of winter, you need a minimum of a 3-frame cluster coming out of winter. And that's minimum. And so we got to realize we don't want 5 frames of bees going into winter because some of those are going to die back. All the foragers are gone. All the drones are gone. The nurse bees is the most important. We need the winter bees, not the nurse bees. The young winter bees are the most important. So we've got to get them fat. I really don't like running a 5-frame nuke in the winter. I want to run a 5/5, which is about 10 frames of bees. And then when they die back, I'm left with a good, powerful 5-frame nuke. But in order to do that, I need to make a good split. I really need to give them a pollen frame. This is really important. If you're in a dearth, especially, give them a pollen frame. And then I feed them pollen patties, small amounts. This also helps them. And hopefully we get a good fall flow. I need them as big as possible so when our fall flow hits, they can capture as much of that real stuff as possible. And that can really help them. So it really just depends on your flows and your season. But if I don't make at least 2 frames of brood, a frame of pollen, and give them some feed and start in early July with that, I have very low success rates. I've got to get that population up, and I've got to get that strong winter bee population. In Mississippi, you can get away with more, but don't try to cut it too close. You're going to end up with more losses than you want, and you want powerhouses coming out of your winter. Whew. Okay. Oregon wasn't represented in the North American Honey Bar. Yeah, we need an Oregon donor, please. Can someone donate some honey to the North American Honey Bar from Oregon this next year? No, they weren't your queen, Zach. I just bought more from you, so I wouldn't have purchased more if it was you. That being said, one of the queens, just in this batch, she was looking a little bit funny. I think she had been smoking some of that purple palm tree delight pot over there in Hawaii, and she just didn't look like she had, that energy. She was a slow mover, and she just went, yo. And I don't think she's going to be a high performer, Zach. No, you produce some good queens. That's why I keep buying. Okie doke. Let's get to our guest, and then we'll get back to the questions. We've got we have most of the questions already marked, and then we're just going to try to go through as many as we can after. Sean, come on in. Hey, Sean, how's it going?
Doing good.
So we usually have someone astute someone that is with above reproach, a Bob Benny, a chill person, a relaxed person, a respectful person. I told Chris to get somebody this week, and this is the best Chris could do. Chris, I don't know about your Christmas bonus. So Sean is the coffee guy at the Bee Expo. That's how most people know him. They may not even know his name. And he's the Copper Canyon Beekeepers Blend coffee dude. So Sean, but you're a beekeeper too. So
Yes.
tell us how you got into bees and coffee, and what you're currently trying to do with bees.
So got into bees in 4-H when I was 10 or 11 years old.
So this was back when they came out with the wheel.
Yes, we had the wheel, and dirt had recently been invented. So I got into it. I was in 4-H for a couple of years. It's just, and then I got out of it, and then in my 50s, I needed a hobby. So
you need to burn some money.
Yeah, exactly. How you make a small fortune in beekeeping is you start with a large fortune. Actually, I was looking for something to do in my retirement. When I retire, and it's going to take a couple, 5 to 10 years to get a solid apiary built up, just for enough to make a modest living, extra cash.
Yeah, that's so you're in was it Missouri, right?
Southwest corner, yes.
Southwest corner. So there's a lot of beekeepers in Missouri. There's quite a fun group of beekeepers out of Missouri, and there's a lot of intelligent ones. And then there's also Corey Stevens as well.
He's on the other side of the state, so yeah, he's wrong.
Yeah, he's wrong. A lot of good folks over there. So what got you into coffee though? Because what you have at the show is exceptional, and we appreciate you bringing it.
So coffee is my second career. I sold my first business when I was in about 35, which was a commercial printing business in Arizona. Wanted out of Arizona because I had a daughter at that time who was about 4.5 years old in Arizona. Phoenix was just no place to raise a kid at that time. Wanted space, wanted to kind of go back. I come from a farming family in Kansas. Didn't want to say I wanted to go back to the farm, but I wanted to go back to a little bit more rural lifestyle. Moved back here, bought a couple acres, and then now I got bored real quick, so we bought a coffee shop, and that's kind of how it all started. Because I was hanging out there, and the lady said, "Well, I'm either going to sell something to do," and that's how I got started in coffee.
So folks, those of you who have been to the Bee Expo, you know that with your ticket, you get pretty much unlimited Copper Canyon coffee, tea, and now they're doing some hot chocolate as well. Mm-hmm. This was the first year we did hot chocolate, or was this the second year?
Second year. We did just a little bit the year before, but we had such a demand for it. We only did it for 2 hours a day the first year. Last year we offered it until we ran out after going through about 60 pounds, I believe.
Yeah, and I partook a little bit of it. Of course, the coffee is what keeps me functioning. I drink an unhealthy amount of caffeine at the show, but you guys roast the beans right before. It is just such premium. I drink a lot of coffee. This is really good stuff, and I like to drink coffee late in the evening, but coffee doesn't love me back sometimes. I can't do caffeine really after about 4 p.m. I do it sometimes and regret it later, but you all have a really nice decaf coffee that's not like full of, like a lot of companies are using like chemicals to pull it out of there. So talk to me a little bit about the decaf coffee that you guys are doing, because it's awesome.
So we strictly use Colombian coffee for our decaf, and it's called EA decaf. And what it is they use the water left over from processing sugar cane to decaffeinate the coffee, because the caffeine molecules in the coffee bond with the sugar molecules in the water, and then they dehydrate that, and they end up with a caffeine and sugar mixture, which they sell to Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all the soda companies.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Now it's kind of interesting. You go into a decaffeination facility, you literally have the highest level of hazmat suit. It's actually higher than going into a nuclear place because of the respirator, because just touching it, getting on your skin, you can absorb it through your skin very easily, and obviously through your lungs, and it doesn't take much to kill you, because coffee contains milligrams of caffeine, and we're talking being around 55-gallon drums of the powdered.
Well, I definitely don't need to be in that facility for sure. it would kill me so quickly. But I've tried a lot of decaf coffees because coffee is like my favorite beverage, and I like to just drink it black. But I also Laurel's got me trying different creamers and cold brew and all these different things now. But the problem with decaf is most of them do not taste good. They don't taste very much like coffee. This is the best decaf that I've ever tried. It doesn't really taste like decaf, and that's what I like about it. And a lot of them, it's like you can tell that they've been changed a lot. But of course, in the morning, the Beekeeper's Blend is what we've been drinking, and this is some good stuff right here. And so with the coffee at the show, I just wanted to say we appreciate you very much, and your family. It's a lot of work producing everything that you guys do. I know there's a ton of people that love you guys at the show. I just to give some perspective. When I went to Appamondia, and it was a good show, but there was no Copper Canyon guys at that show, and there was some coffee vendors, but I paid for the ticket, and then I also was paying what I think was in US dollars about $7 to $8, like
Mhm.
for coffee that was, and I'm like, hey, I need black coffee, and they're like, what are you talking about? And I mean, I don't know what to say. So they're like, well, do you want an Americano or you want this or that? And so they basically had some espresso they added some extra water to try to mimic
Yeah.
American coffee. And it was better than not having anything, but it wasn't American enough for me.
Well, we've been with you guys since the second year,
Yeah.
and it's been a fun ride. I enjoy it. We look forward to it every year.
Well, I know you do a lot of prep, so much prep work, and these shows are so tedious. Sean does a great job of handling all the crazy paperwork that comes with these shows. I appreciate that very much because what we do is really unique. We do, of course, bringing all the product in ourselves, or the vendors bring it in. Of course, Sean handles all of his coffee stuff. Most shows, it's very different, and he Sean handles all these logistics of getting water and electricity and just we've had to be creative in order to get allowed to be able to do it ourselves because I if we were to hire a company to come in outside of you guys for the amount of coffee that you do, I bet it would be a $40,000 to $50,000 bill for the
I
show.
think I figured last year to about a $32,000 bill if we'd gone straight across, just as what we would charge if we were catering, because we do a show in Las Vegas, and if it was a little bit larger, but we scaled. I did the math, and that's where it would come in at.
Wow. Wow. So you guys are really doing everybody a massive service and me too. So now I feel like I need to buy more Copper Canyon coffee. Um,
Well, to be honest, we track all of our online sales, and our best event that we do for residual sales is the Honey Expo. So you guys help support us as well as supporting the next gen program, because we divide the tip money up after we pay for some last minute expenses out of the tip money. Emergency, generally we run out of half and half. This year it was about 45 gallons, I think, of half and half.
45 gallons of half and half.
Had to do the math real quick in my head there. But occasionally I buy that out of cash. But we try to donate this year. I think we'll have we have a $900 cash sitting in our drawer I need to get to you sometime for the next gen program.
Well, you guys every year have been supporting our next gen program, and it really adds up a lot. And I know that you guys have sold a bunch of coffee with pollinator seed packets that have gone out, and so non beekeepers are getting pollinator seeds and helping spread those out.
We're starting that back up. I just got 50 gallons or a 50-gallon drum of pollinator Midwest. It's more for the Midwest growing zone, but we're going to ship with all the coffee. We got the seeds, and we'll actually start packaging them in about a week in house. So I'm getting fully recycled packaging made for them as well.
That's awesome. And so just again, we appreciate you supporting our youth program. I know we don't have to get into this because a lot of this kind of stuff you keep to yourself, but I just know that Sean has seen some individuals at the show, especially young people that have maybe just not had a whole lot of capital to do their beekeeping, and they're young people, and you guys have taken them to the side and helped them get going and really given them a boost and encouragement. And yeah, that's what really makes the Bee Expo what it is. It's more than just a conference. There's a lot of relationships. There's real community there, and there's a lot of people that are serving in a lot of different ways. And
It's not an expo; it's a community.
it's a community. And you're messing with me all year round, I constantly.
Yes.
And see, I suffer more than people realize for these relationships. You're like the weird uncle I never had. And so I don't, some people may have seen this a couple years ago, but Sean had made these stupid stickers of my face and passed out what, 3 or 4,000 of those puppies?
I think it was about right around 2,500 total.
Okay, 2,500. It felt like 10,000. I'm still getting like people sending it to me like they have me on a Tumblr, or my aunt, I think she put one on some magnet or something. And so they're just everywhere.
I think your mother hung something up in her barn that has your face on it this year.
Yeah, they're trying to use it to keep rodents out and a few other, but they're everywhere. And my brother threw one on my trailer, which was a pain to get that off. And then Chris, I think, put one on my license plate or something like that, which I'm not sure how they would feel about that. Maybe it wasn't Chris. Maybe that was Ethan and Chris did the trailer. It was one or the other. So anyways, Sean, are you guys going to have more coffee cups available?
You bet. Send me a message. We'll get you fixed up.
Okay. So
have her go through the website. There's a contact page. Go through that and I will get you taken care of.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely do that. We're big Copper Canyon fans. Definitely no. This year we need to do a different sticker. We do like a Bob Benny head sticker. Anybody, actually, I don't care as long as it's not me.
We can do a Chris Medeiros.
Hey, there you go. I like this. I approve of this message. This is the coffee right here, and we appreciate. I know everyone likes to drink their coffee in their own way, and but I appreciate anyone who wants to support Copper Canyon. They do a lot of stuff for beekeepers and in beekeeping education. And of course, our youth program as well. And we appreciate you supporting them. And also, Sean does a pretty good job. You talk to your producers and stuff. You have relationships with your growers. And I think that's something that's missing from, the big coffee corporations is, there's relationships there between you and those other folks, with the coffee. So it's all about community. Everything that we're doing in and out of beekeeping, it's more than just business. It's also, hoping and trying to help other people be successful as well. And we want everyone to kind of rise together as long as they are willing to hang out with weirdos like Sean and myself. And
hey, I would like to thank Rossman Apiaries for sponsoring us for the last couple of years, though, because they have been very nice and footing a good portion of the bill for us to get to the show and be able to pay for the cups and a good portion of the coffee there.
Yes, thanks. Thank you, Rossman. Several years of subsidizing the coffee tremendously. However, I feel like there should be an Allen tax enforced this year because putting up with Allen is a lot, and Candy's not a whole lot better, to be honest. That whole Rossman group is full of weirdos, and I don't think they hop on videos very much, but I hope that someone who knows them will send this over to them. They're really fun people to be around, but I don't know what's more fun, getting to hang out with Sean or watching Alan and Candy go at each other.
Oh, they are an entertainment by themselves. Yes.
Two different branches of Rossman going at each other. But anyhow, Sean, we appreciate what you do. Appreciate you being part of the beekeeping community. John Hill would appreciate some stickers of himself, but we have children's eyes to think of. We don't want to show them something that egregious. We have youth we have to consider. John is one of the ugliest people in the beekeeping industry. He's a nice guy, but so was the Elephant Man in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. But anyhow, I shouldn't do John like that. It's not very fair. We
He's
love
got a couple
him.
screws loose. I mean,
I know. I found a few of them eventually.
yeah, that's what I
Uh,
heard.
so I do appreciate everything that you do, Sean. We look forward to working with you again this year and all the creative stuff. If you need more booth space, the trade show has expanded. And so I'm sure you probably could use a little bit more of a footprint for various things. Maybe, if nothing else, just a couple tables nearby. So people
We're
can
looking
chill.
for it. We're going to add another hot chocolate station in this year, and we're trying to figure out. Depending, I know roughly where I was going to be this year. Adding a third line during the morning rush.
Hot chocolate. So one of the surprisingly good things I hadn't ever tried was I did about 60 to 70% of your beekeeper's blend, and I mixed it with the hot chocolate.
Well, that became the trend there at the end. Everybody figured that trick out, and that's why we're putting another hot chocolate machine and probably going to bring about another 100. So we make our own hot chocolate. I actually sold that company off about 5 years ago, but I still buy. It's still my blend, so I buy it from them. But we're going to bring another extra 100 pounds this year for another line because that trick, seeing people figured that out towards the end.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you and I both know everybody's busy. There's so much product moving. There's so much trade show to see. The trade show is expanding this year in several ways. I talked to Dadent, and they're looking forward to having a big booth again this year. And I've talked to several other companies, and some of them, like Bob's, like, I want double the space, Cayman. If you know, that's assuming you're having me back, of course, this
Oh,
year.
good Lord, Bob.
He knows better. He's just
He does.
he's too humble.
So I still remember my first year there in Tennessee. If you remember, I had the line wrapped all the way around Bob's booth and all the way out, and Bob wanted to kill me. Now Bob wants me to have the line going up by his booth so he can talk to people.
Yeah, I remember that, and it was a logistical
It
problem.
was a nightmare the first year.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's so the people who have come to our show later in the year, like later in our development, later shows, they just don't realize the humble beginnings
Yes.
of stuff, and a lot of it was, just we'd never run a show before. I didn't know what I was doing, and then everyone was having to kind of live with it. And the bee industry really hadn't had a trade show in the United States like this, to where we were trying to sell a lot of product and have discounts and bring semi loads in. And so there was just a lot of learning curves. Um, we still had a lot of fun, and that's where we really have tight relationships with a lot of people like yourself, because we've come a long ways together, and we've gone
Yes, we
through a
have.
lot together. And it's really like a family reunion, and we cut up and have a good time. And that's really what the bee community is in a nutshell. Not everybody has that type of disposition, and there's a few weirdos like that Billy Joe that helps in your booth.
Yeah. Well, we keep Gus around to keep Billy Joe in line.
Gus doesn't want that job. Well, Josh Hager.
They're the odd couple. I'm just going to say this as far as friends. They're so cool. Both gentlemen are awesome to work with, and I've gotten to know them over the years.
But they're polar opposites.
They
Though.
are. Yin and yang.
Gus is over there just quiet and super big and strong. And then Billy Joe's like my size and over there, and he doesn't need coffee. I don't know
No,
why you allow him to drink that stuff,
no.
because it's like rocket fuel for a squirrel. And all that. Well, Sean, do you have anything else you want to add? We're going to get back to some beekeeping questions, but I
The
do
last
really
thing I'm going to add is on the tea that we bring to the expo, a lot of it is actually grown here in the United States, and we blend it and package it. We buy the black tea from Sri Lanka, but if you get ginger or the teas that have anything else in it, is actually all grown in Southwest Missouri.
Wow,
So
really?
we buy all the raw material. Actually, I contract that people grow it for me. And this year we're actually starting our own lavender farm.
Wow, that's going to be awesome for the bees too. Yeah.
That's part of it. Yes, that's part of the transition for the rest for my hobby life.
It's tax write off for the
Yes.
bees. Uh, well, I didn't know that about the teas, and honestly, Sean, I'm not sure I've tried your teas before, just because the coffee is so good. I never have tried the teas out. So I'll have to give that a shot. But I didn't realize that the majority of it's there in Missouri. That is really unique. So I'm glad you mentioned that. So if you're a tea person, if you're a coffee person, a hot chocolate person, or a bee person, coppercanyoncoffee.com, discount code Cayman 2027. I know we had a discount code. Chris,
Yep.
you've been working overtime. And
He actually does work behind the scenes, I think.
he does. It's just, sometimes he does stuff behind my back, like bring you on surprisingly to this. And then next thing I know, you and him will have worked on a new sticker with my face on it or something. But the problem of it is I can't hardly live without you guys at this point, and you guys know it. So you guys know that you can get away with certain things.
Well, that and your mom will defend me.
Yeah, she loves your coffee a lot too. She loves it. Well, Sean, always good to talk to you. Let me know what you need with the show. Anything?
We're looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great year. Like I said, we're counting on being bigger, badder, and better this year.
Well, we love your coffee. We love your family. We tell all of your group, we said, hey, and if you need anything in beekeeping, let's keep that on.
Yeah. My hair's standing straight up too, so I get it.
That's right. All right. We'll talk to you later, Sean.
Thank you.
Take care. All right, folks. A big thank you to Copper Canyon and Sean for everything that they do for the Bee Expo. And if you like coffee, that is the place to get it. Sean is just a good friend, and we've had a lot of conversations in and out of beekeeping, and just respect him as a person, and of course as a bee buddy. That just makes it all the better. So we have a lot of questions to get to. I want to say a big thank you to Paul Martin, who is supporting us yet again here on our live stream, not only in this donation, but also as one of our members. It really helps us out. Appreciate that. Paul's been supporting us for, gosh, how long you been around, Paul, in our YouTubes? Probably 5 to 6 years, maybe more. Appreciate you. Already have a hotel room reserved, and there's only 244 days to go. It'll be here before we know it, especially with as fast as the spring is moving along, and these bees are hustling all of us. All right, let's get some questions. We have several backlogged. Chris, do you want to fire those away? Do you have them semi-organized? Okie doke. Yeah, it's dropping them out. Thinking about making nukes after flow. What are the success rates? Oh, I already took that one. I already took the one from Greg. How big of a jar do you need for the honey bar? So good question, Sean, and thanks for coming on today. The honey bar, we can take a couple different things. What we really want more than anything is glass if possible, but sometimes maybe you don't have that, but glass does make it easier because we're using wooden tasters. And if it's like a squeeze bottle, plastic especially, you just can't access the honey, especially the further down you go. And so we would prefer something a round jar like this. Not really a quart jar because it's hard to get them all the way down into there. So something more like a pint. We can use plastic, 1 pounders, 2 pounders, 3 pounders, but we're going to have to pour them out. And we did that with a lot of them. And so it does increase a lot of our labor for the honey bar. I want to say a big thank you to Paula Messer and her husband, Eric, for all the work that they did, especially Paula prior to the Bee Expo. And then a huge thank you to Chris's family. His brother, Zach, helped set it up big time. And then his mother and his grandparents just helped manage so many things within the honey bar, making sure things were clean. And I knew they would do a good job because they remind me so much of my grandparents, and they're just not going to let anything slide. It's going to be great, and they're going to will it into being. They're just great people. And I guess that's where Chris gets it from. He's not quite as great as his, grandparents, but you still have some time to mature, Chris. You'll get there. Don't worry. But the honey bar requires that we have jars that people can access. So if it's in a plastic, let's say it's a 1 pound squeeze bottle, we have to actually put that into a separate container and all of that. So would appreciate everybody supplying us with a little bit of it so we can have unique honeys. And you don't have to supply with a lot. We're not looking for people to give us 4 jars or really even more than 1 jar. If that's all that you can do, that's greatly appreciated. We're really going for diversity, more than quantities per person. There'll be a couple of honeys that we're going to get more than a couple because, Bob Benny's sourwood it's going to be tasted. Everyone wants some of Bob Benny's sourwood honey, and I'm right there with them. That's awesome stuff. So here's a question. Hi, what is the best way to introduce a new queen to the hive? So it all depends on the split and the time of the year. If there's a good flow, that's so much easier, but we don't want queen cells. So we want to make a split and either introduce the queen that day, or we want to make a split. And if we're not going to introduce it for a few days, we're going to have to go back into that split before we introduce the queen and cut down any queen cells that they're going to raise. If the hive is without a queen for more than, some people will say 12 hours or less, they'll start making emergency queen cells. And even if they accept your queen, sometimes these emergency cells will emerge with a virgin, and she will kill your laying queen. So we want to make sure that we introduce the queen on that split immediately. And we want to make sure that we cut any cells down if there's any lag there. Now, I prefer slow releases on queens. I think the queen candy is too quick most of the time. Definitely do not recommend hurrying that process up. The queen candy in a JZBZ, a California queen cage, any of those, usually it's about a day, maybe day and a half, especially if it's a strong colony, and they're to that queen. I think that's too quick. I'm a big fan of taking a plug of fondant or queen candy, and you can make your own queen candy. It's 2 pounds of powdered sugar to 1 cup of your honey. Don't use anybody else's honey. Or you can use like Pro Sweet sugar syrup. And you may even be able to find places that sell queen candy, but fondant would be cheaper if you're going to have to buy materials for it. Just buy a thing of fondant, take a square plug about this big, and put it right in front of that cage, and so that they have to eat through that fondant before they can get to it. And that just buys you an extra day or so. And I think that's really important. Allow them to get used to her pheromones. And also there's push in cages. But if you're putting it in a split where there's no foraging bees, it works way better because the older bees are the ones least likely to accept the queen. So if there's a flow going on, it's easy because everyone's happy, everyone's busy, and it's so much easier to introduce a queen. But if it's a dearth period, you definitely want to feed if there's not a strong flow. Feeding a quart or two during the introduction really helps. If there's a powerful flow going on, maybe you can forego that. But if you make your split and put it in a new location in the same bee yard, all the foragers go back to the original hive. And so this also helps your queens get accepted because now this split only has young bees in it. And so they're going to be less rough on your queen and accept her way easier. So it's more than just introduction. It's also flow, ages of the bees. If we're talking about a hive that's really old and has no brood, that's going to be hard too. So the push in cage can be helpful. So there's a lot of different ways to do it. But the main thing is we don't want to rush. We don't want to get into the hive early too. Once you've introduced the queen, there's no reason to get in there earlier than 7 days. And honestly, I wouldn't get in until about 9 or 10 days after you've introduced the queen. Let her get out, let her lay some eggs, and let her get some young larvae. Check after 9 to 10 days after introduction, and good luck with your splits. So, Robbie beekeeping, are swarm traps good if I use them on the ground? They can be. I've had them go onto hive stands many, many times. I wouldn't put them directly in the grass, but if you had maybe them just a foot or so off the ground, they do work. I've seen them go into dead out colonies many times. I had one go into the back of my truck about a month ago. I just caught one with my bucket swarm trap, and that one I've got to get it out and tear all that down. That's going to be fun. That's why I usually don't do that. But it's cheap. And so, yes, you can have them low on the ground. Francis Moore. Hey, Cayman, what tricks do you use to build your hives up before the flow? It is said you should build them up 40 days. The biology of the workers, 21 days, emerge about 20 to 21 days before they forage. So the best way to build up the bees for the flow is to go into winter with the best, healthiest cluster that you can. If you can do that and you have a powerful cluster, there's not a whole lot that you need unless it's a poor year. This year was a great year. I hardly fed any pollen patties because we just had so much sunny days. It was a warm March. It was a little warm in late February, and we didn't get a lot of rain, which was kind of a problem later. But so the bees were getting flying days, they were getting pollen. And when you get those perfect conditions, unless they're short on feed in some way, there's really not a whole lot that we can do. But we want a strong colony. Of course, you have a great queen laying, good patterns. They're going to build quickly. And then if I have poor weather, I'm going to feed pollen patties every about 5 to 7 days, depending on how big the colony is. And then I'm also going to feed them sugar syrup if it's a tough start to the spring. I was feeding some colonies in February sugar syrup here, and that really helped get them to the point where they could be strong, healthy colonies. And it didn't take much. It just took enough to get them to where they could get to the early flows, which is not a honey production flow, but it's enough to where they're starting to sustain themselves on the natural cherry blossoms and other things that won't ever go into a honey super. How much extra woodenware do you have? Oh, goodness, way too much. I think it's important to always have backups because you're going to have swarms. You're going to have to make splits sometimes that you didn't want to prevent a swarm. I think it's important to have, if you can afford it, a reasonable amount of extra equipment, maybe 5 to 10% more than what you need, because there's always that swarm. There's always something going on. So it's always good to have some extra stuff. Let's see. Going through the questions. Hey, Karen, really appreciate you hopping on here and for saying that. Welcome to beekeeping. I hope, I hope our videos have been helpful, and the goal is just to be easy access information as much as possible. Obviously, there's a lot to learn. It's a big journey, just like everything else, but give yourself a lot of grace. Beekeeping, just like anything else, is going to require some time and persistence and education. And with beekeeping, it can take a few years to get where you want to get. Ultimately long term, but enjoy the journey. It is fun. There's a lot of wonder and awesome parts of beekeeping that's unlike anything else. And so, just as a new beekeeper, things can be a little tricky to learn, but you're putting in the education, and it is a lot of fun. I definitely enjoy it. After 20 something years, I am just as giddy about getting into bees I find myself going, what do I need to get into bees today? Oh, there's got to be a good reason to get into bees today. Hey, Karen, I do live sessions every other Friday. Sometimes it doesn't work out, but we're trying to every other Friday. So this Friday, 7 p.m. Central Time, we started. We're going to be doing not next Friday, but the Friday after that, 7 p.m. Central Time. And bring your questions. We'll be excited to take them. Most of the time we don't have a special guest, but sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. Yeah, I'm right there with you. And Sean definitely makes the bill a lot more affordable for us. I just want to say a big thank you. He really does a lot between what he does for the kids, the Next Gen program, what he does for the beekeepers there by keeping the price to where we can afford to have it for everybody, just at the quantities that we have. Nobody else would probably do what Sean does. And he is one of the heroes of the expo. Heck, between him and Bob, if either one pulled stakes and decided not to be at the show, we'd probably have a mutiny. Hey, Charlie, I really appreciate you coming to our show. And thanks for the encouragement. So I'm trying to catch back up. I'm about 25 minutes behind on stuff. I'm just scrolling through here. If I missed your question, I didn't mean to, and you can post that fresh down in the bottom. I'm just going to go to about the 8 o'clock mark on these questions. This is Beekeeper Moon. Does the jar affect the taste of the honey that's stored, kind of like wine in wood barrels? So I think it does if it's certain materials. I know that beekeepers will put honey in tins. Short term, I don't think the tin really affects the flavor of honey that much. If someone's buying it quickly after it's bottled and then they're consuming that within a couple of months, I don't think there's a big deal. But I've had some tins that have been a year old, 2 years old. I don't You can kind of, it does something to it in my opinion. Glass jars, I've never noticed anything with glass jars. Plastic, I've never noticed anything with plastic jars. That doesn't mean there isn't something, but flavor wise, never noticed anything with it. We use a lot of glass. We have some customers that want plastic, and so we do use that, the 2 pound squeeze bottle plastics. But as far as containers go, long term storage and steel, stainless steel, possibly. I've stored stuff for multiple years, couldn't detect any changes in taste. So, could it happen over a decade or more? Very possible. If I was wanting to store honey long term, ideally it would be in glass. Hey, thank you so much for purchasing Blake and I's book. We hope that it's really helpful. The problem with these videos and live chats is there's just, you get a little bit of this, and sometimes you can't get the context. The book does a much better job of running through multiple scenarios and just answering questions. It's kind of like this live stream, just more coherent and educational, I think. And Blake did a really good job, and I tried to do a good job as well. But you know me, you get what you get. Hey, Jim, Judy, I really appreciate you saying that. We are going to have great deals again with the show this year. Of course, shipping and the way things are, I think there's going to be even more. If you're buying a bunch of stuff or any big things, the saving on the shipping for extractors and stuff is definitely really nice. Hmm. See. So Gabriel says, question, quick guide to how to split bees changes depending on the season. Example, spring versus summer versus fall. I think I hit that earlier, but yes, I don't do any fall splits. It's just too late for me in my season because we're really starting to slow down by September. We're doing a build up for the winter bees, but it's there's definitely can't afford a split at that point. Summer, I'm in a dearth period. I've got some buddies that their best part of the season is July. I'm in full blown robbing at this time. So if I do split, it's going to be early July. It's going to be a powerful split. I'm going to have to feed them. And I'm moving all of those splits away from the big colonies, and they're all going into their own yard so they don't get bludgeoned and stressed out by the bigger colonies. And so there are changes when it comes to splitting. We want those bees over there. We have to constantly feed them. They definitely need to be fed protein because there's no natural pollens in July and early August for us of any significant quality and quantity. There are some pollens, but a lot of them are really low quality pollens. So I don't really like making splits anymore after June. It's more difficult, and I just go ahead and try to get it when it's easier. In bad weather, how long can cells stay in the finisher? Days to emergence. So whenever we graft, typically they're emerging around 12-ish days afterwards, but a lot of that depends on temperature. Is this larva that you grafted 18 hours old, and this other one over here you grafted is 12? And so there's some differences in temperature. There's a difference in, because like if it's a nuke that's struggling to keep everything warm, the center might be perfect temp. And then the outer cells aren't going to be damaged, but they're going to be slightly lower. I mean, we're talking maybe 1.5 degrees or so, but it happens. And those aren't going to emerge as quick as the ones that are kept warmer. So I really don't want ever to have cells in my finisher beyond 10 days after graft. 10 days after graft, they have got to go because usually you still have a little bit of time, but not always. Things can change, and you just don't want any of those emerging out and destroying your other cells. I prefer them to get in an incubator by day 7, but sometimes if you can't do it, you just can't do it. Okay, a lot of people needing rain, some people too much rain. Wow. Well, that's the weather for you. You know, the weather forecaster, I really need them to just stop, because I think I can go outside and predict the weather this good. And I just look out. Nope, it's not raining today, or at least not for a little while. Came and have a hive with a honey super on, but they seem to be backfilling the brood box. Hive beside it filled 3 honey supers, same sized hives. Any thoughts on how to correct this? Bandit, I hate this problem. It happens to me too much. And I said this in my last live stream is I love excluders. Honey excluders is what some people call them, because they feel like it keeps the honey from going through them. When they work good, the bees pass through them like they're not even there. Some hives are really good at it, and some of them are not. I don't know if you're using an excluder or not, but queen excluders can be an obstacle to some hives. So what I've decided to do going forward is I'm going to have one medium super that is, it's, if the queen wants to go up in there and lay, I don't care. What I'm going to do is put a medium super on right before the honey flow starts, let her go up in there, give her some more space, have an excluder, and then have the rest of my honey supers on top. And then what I'm going to do is come back a couple weeks later, whenever my inspection is, probably 2 weeks later, and I'm going to go and I'm going to shake all the bees out of the medium that has the brood in there. And then I'm going to put um, that queen excluder underneath that one that has the brood in it. We don't want to stack it way up, because if it's too far away, they'll start raising queen cells in it. But if it's right there up against the brood, it'll be fine. And now they're going to be passing through that excluder like it's not even there. Some hives are just not good about that, and they won't go through, and they will plug their brood chambers. And it's really a frustrating problem, and it can lead to lower honey yields and swarms, of course. And I'm just like, you know what? Getting a little bit of brood in one of my honey supers per hive, big deal. If it lowers my swarm chances and increases my honey yields and makes my management easier, so what? I'll just cycle this medium out in a few years. I'll still extract honey from it, because I'm not going to be using treatments. We don't really use synthetics anyways, but I'm not going to be using treatments with it on. And so if it gets one round of brood in it a year for a few years before I cycle it out, who cares? Got to keep those bees from swarming. Okay, looks like I've moved myself down towards the bottom. So if I missed any of your questions, you can drop them down below and we will get those. So can beeswax be used to make reusable, renewable plastics? First of all, I have no history in plastic making whatsoever. Probably. However, the price of real beeswax into a renewable plastic, if you'd have to find a really specific market for that, because that's going to be really expensive. It would be really nice, but it would be very expensive. Yeah, a little bit of hive beetles and some roach bait, and they're toast. Demery, after listening to Lawrence at North American Honeybee Expo, we tried one and it's doing great. I haven't. I've done things similar. I've done double screen boards. Ethan, I typically, no, I make a split off of every production colony, unless it's just a little bit behind the rest of them, then maybe I won't. But every honey production colony is getting split. And so I don't feel like I need to do a demery, because I'm already reducing the size of the colony. I'm already alleviating that swarm tendency. It works really good for me. It buys the bees time. It doesn't really seem to affect my honey yields either. And so I need to do that so I can sell nukes. It's good revenue for me. If I got 100 colonies and I make one nuke off of each one, and we did a lot of nukes this year, we did definitely more than 100. That's $200, $200 a nuke. And so that's $20,000 off of 100 hives. Obviously, there's some expenses in there, but I'm still going to get my honey crop off of those, as long as I can keep them from swarming. I have some honey supers, and I would prefer that method myself. But the demery, I think, is still a really good method. I've talked to several people like Lawrence who do it really good. There's some other beekeepers I know that are really good beekeepers that like that method. It's obvious that it is a good method. I just have never done it. I need to try it out. I've read about it, talked to people about it. It seems like it makes perfect sense. I just haven't ever implemented it. Any advice for how a backyard beekeeper can make a great profit with beekeeping? I'm trying to build a quarter-acre urban farm with an orchard without needing a 9-to-5 career. So the most important thing with any business is, first of all, you've got to get your education up, um, and you've got to know how to be sustainable with bees. It's expensive if you're having to buy a nuke from me every year at $200 or from somebody else, or buy packages or whatever. And you have to wait till the next year, oftentimes, to even break even with that. So priority number one is being sustainable. If we want 10 hives, how do we come out of winter with 10 good hives? And this requires great queens in there, dead mites, and good nutrition. You've got to be able to keep those mites low. You need to never let the nutrition get low in your colony. And not every colony is going to be the same. Some will need it and some won't at different times. So recognize what that is. And when it comes to sustainability, learn how to make splits. If you want 10 hives, you need to be going into winter with 13 to 15. They don't have to be full-sized colonies, but they need to be young queens, good, healthy young nukes, 5/5s, whatever it is. And these are your backups. These are your insurance. You're going to lose bees if you're keeping bees. You're going to lose chickens if you're raising chickens. I always accounted for some loss when I was raising chicks and chickens, so that when I was selling to customers, I made sure I had my numbers. No different with bees. And protect your investment. Keep your equipment simple. There's so many different ways to feed. There's so many different ways to do this. Keep it simple. I've done almost everything, and I'm here to tell you, I've made a full circle. I started simple, and then a few years I started going crazy, and here I am back to let's keep it simple, stupid, because there's so many things that you just don't need. You can make feeders out of buckets. You can use frame feeders. Frame feeders last so long, but they're not perfect. But whatever system you do, just stick with it. Either a bucket feeder or a frame feeder or a jar feeder. Those are the best methods. I don't like the hive top feeders. Too expensive. They get in the way. It's a pain. And protect your equipment. Your woodenware, if you're painting it properly and taking care of it, should last you over a decade minimum. And you're going to get rot in the corners the most, where water sits in between the boxes. Paint that really good. Get wax dipped equipment. If you take good care of your equipment, you could be using it for 15 to 20 years. Keep that. Those are the most important things that you've got to do. And don't rely on just honey. You're going to have some bad honey years. Selling bees is a great way to make income. And there's a lot of beekeepers I know that make way more money. I'm one of them, selling bees than they do making honey. Honey, you have to have expensive bottlers. You have to have bottles. You have to have extractors and all of these different tools. And you have to have additional supers and stuff set aside for them and store those supers. Selling nucleus colonies, it's not the same. Now, you can make good money doing honey. If you're getting a premium, you're getting $10, $15, $20 a pound. That's a different story. But I don't live in one of those areas that would be easy to move 10 to 20 drums a year at that price. So location, there's a lot of different things to it. So roach bait is illegal in Tennessee. In Australia and some other places, you can use combat roach bait and put it in between some stuff like a trap, a CD case, something that the beetles can get into that the bees can't get into. You can take some fluted plastic like a political sign, cut half of it open, run a line in there, close it back up, put a piece of tape, and the roaches, the small hive beetles go in and they eat it and they die. A lot of commercial beekeepers in the US do this illegally, and it works really, really good. And now the bait only lasts for probably about a month or so, so you'd have to reapply it on occasion, but it's very safe for the colony, and it wipes out small hive beetles. Fipronil is not that dangerous. If it was, they wouldn't let you put it in your kitchens. Okay. Navy Phil, I have a really mean hive, 2 deeps and 3 supers. It's huge and packed. I split them and still can't find the queen. Is the size It's the size of the world genetics most likely. I don't fully understand that, but if you're trying to requeen them, maybe use a queen excluder and try to isolate her down to one brood chamber. If you have 2 brood chambers, maybe have an excluder between your honey supers, and then you have one between each deep box. And then you can isolate, okay, I know she's somewhere in the second box, second brood box, whether she's in the bottom box. And then that way you can move her from that hive, and now all the forager bees go back, and so you have even less bees in there. It's easier to find her, and then you can requeen that other one. But I hate mean bees. Every now and then I get one like that, and they can be hard to find the queens when they're really powerful like this. But good luck with that one. I get her out of there. I hate being chased 100 feet from the hive and just getting zinged. Okay, how to keep wax moss out of supers when storing. We can't freeze way too many, 100 boxes or more. So there's a couple different methods. One, you can keep them on your bees, put them back onto your hives, and let them manage that space. If they're strong colonies, they won't really store anything up in there unless you're feeding heavily or there's a flow, but they will take care of them. But every time you got to get into those colonies, they're going to be in the way. So that stinks. Or you can use paramoth. If people are okay with that, it does work really good. Put them in a bag. There are some BT sprays. Some people say they work good. Some people say they don't work good. Even if they did work good, they're a pain in the butt to administer. And you have to make sure you're very thorough with it. Oh, I know a couple guys, they'll get some sealed bags or some type of sealed dealio, and they will throw formic in there. They'll make their own formic shop towel, and they'll throw it in there because it will nuke wax moss or anything else. And as long as the bag is sealed, everything's nuked and nothing can get into it. So there's a couple different ways to do that. Of course, once you get to cool weather, it's not a problem. I don't know what your season's like, but for me, once I get to October, I don't worry about wax moss anymore. Yeah, we see some, but they're just not able to successfully do what they need to do here in Tennessee in October to my super. So October to about May, about right now, I don't worry about wax moss. I have a honey super stacked right now in my shed. Not a whole lot. I've got about 10 left that I haven't used, but they're stacked up. And there's nothing preventing wax moss from getting into them. But I just know it's not going to be a problem right now. And I'll probably use them tomorrow. I'm going to be going into some honey production colonies that probably need a little bit more space. So that's pretty much all I have. Yeah, the Apame top feeders, a lot of people like those. Like that is a plus about a top feeder is that you don't have to open up the colony or disturb them. The bees can't get out and get to you when you're feeding them. So that is a perk. I just don't like having to pull each one of them off. And this is really just a thing of scale. And this is where you guys have to take what I say with a grain of salt too, because I'm thinking about things totally different. And sometimes I've got 200 and something hives right now. If you add nukes to that and mating nukes, it's easily 300. I'm not thinking about things the same way that you guys are when it comes to scale and efficiency and time. And so sometimes what I say might be correct, but it may not be correct for you guys. And the Apame feeders are built really well. And that is one of the convenient things about those style of feeders. Thoughts about supplemental feeding bananas to your colonies. If you can get a ton of free bananas and you want to take the time to mash those up and feed them to bees, they'll take it. Bees will feed on that. They'd probably do that to other stuff too, but I would never do that close to wintertime. There's a lot of roughage in bananas that bees don't benefit from. They need to be able to get out and take cleansing flights and get that out of their system. There's research on it. It's being done in the United States in places where sugar is the price that it is. If you're having to buy bananas, it just doesn't make any sense to me. But if you have access to a bunch and you want to, knock yourself out. Maybe make some banana honey. That would be weird. Running out of equipment, ordered 5 deeps and 100 frames today. I almost didn't order some frames at my expo. I was going back and forth. I knew I was going to be semi-tight, but I'm like, I'll probably be fine and I can always get them later. And I went ahead and purchased 900 and something frames, whatever the pallet holds from Premier. And boy, that was a good decision. I went through what I had already, and then I've used half of that, and I'm going to be using more. And so, yeah, because I got a swarm to install. Actually, I'll be doing that as soon as I'm off this live stream. I've got a powerful swarm that's easily going to cover a 10 frame box. And I'm actually going to use an Apiary hive for it because I have one that's perfect for it. And I'm going to shake them in there, and I'm going to close the entrances. I'm going to close everything. I'm going to put some feet on them and put some foundations. I don't want them to leave, so I'm going to leave them in there for 2 to 3 days and just give them, but you have to give them feed or they will starve very quickly. Especially the bigger the swarm, the faster it seems they starve on me. Yeah, that was some really good news. Mr. Ed just got his channel back. So many of you who've come to the show or have seen Mr. Ed on YouTube, he's got his, he lost his channel. Some nefarious individual decided to try to take advantage of a content creator. And thankfully, Jeff was able to get YouTube and all them to help him get it back. So very glad to hear that. Hard decision. Feed the bees or banana nut bread. I think, yeah, exactly. Hey, that is a nice deer in the back of that vehicle. Good. That's a really a beautiful one. So something that I'm going to be trying this year that I'm super excited about is Hubam clover, Hubam. And we just sowed about 6/10 of an acre, maybe a little bit more than that of clover. My dad planted buckwheat in some other areas and some sunflowers also. And so this is going to be my nuke yard. So whenever I'm building nukes in June and I'm making these splits, I need these colonies to build up. I also am going to move them away from production colonies over there to where it'll be easier for them to not be stressed by other bees. And also, hopefully, this Hubam clover is like sweet clover. Well, it is a sweet clover, but unlike the traditional varieties that are biannual, they're going to grow for 1 year and then they're going to produce flowers the next. This is not like that. This grows and produces in its first year. So my hope is, planting it now, we're going to be getting that producing sometime in late June or July, and probably July mostly. And that's going to really help those nukes in that yard get pollens, which is the most important thing that I need, and then sugar syrup. Many of you have probably heard me say this before, but if I had to pick between a pollen flow or a honey flow, I'm going to pick pollen flow if we're talking extended periods, because you can't build bees without pollen. But if you have pollen and you don't have any nectar, you can still build bees. You can feed them sugar year round and you're going to build bees and they're going to be just fine as long as they have healthy pollens. Is it as good as nectar and pollen? Of course not. But the difference between nectar and sugar syrup is way closer in what's healthy for bees versus pollen substitute and real pollens. So I really need pollens during that dearth period. And if I can get nectar too from Hubam, which it is a good nectar producer, even better. So I'm hoping this is really going to help beef my nukes up. And I just love growing things as well. So that's going to be fun. I just filmed a short little video of that. I'll probably be releasing it in the future. And I'll let you guys know how that performs in the future. These plants are supposed to get up to 5 feet tall. And sweet clover is one of the best producers when it comes to nectar and pollen. So we'll see how good it does. Also, I'd just like to say really quick, for those of you who are new beekeepers or anybody who knows someone or in your bee club or whatever that's new beekeeper, on a different channel, I have our Beekeeping 101 series. It's called Cayman's Beekeeping 101. We're talking about how to identify bee bread. What, is this a drone? Is this a worker? This drone cell versus, this kind of stuff. When to add our second box. What's the better hive tool? how expensive is beekeeping? The basic beginner questions. And we decided to do it on that channel because things get lost pretty easily with this other one. And a lot of you who have been following me for years, you want to see videos that are a little bit more your speed. And this is a lot of videos. They're long videos. And so I felt like having it separate would be beneficial. And we also felt like there's a crowd of folks on that ag channel that are homesteaders or whatever, and they're thinking about possibly adding bees. And this is a good series for them. It goes good with the garden and family and homestead channel, which that's our Grow 365 channel. And we just thought it would be better over there. And the videos are doing very well. And so if Oh, well, thank you. We still have some work to do. I appreciate you saying that, Mark. I'm not able to get all of the videos like that because the guy that does our recording, he is so busy. Oh, there's the link right there to Grow 365. Thank you for subscribing to that, if you did. And we can't get all of them fancy because Daniel's not able to be with me every day. And sometimes like, oh, this is a great video. And we want Laurel to be in the videos too, but Daniel is doing all the fancy videos now for us. He does all of the recordings at the show and stuff. He's really good at all those things. And we just decided to go ahead and invest in him. I want to say a big thank you to Daniel. He does really good work. He's helping me produce more videos as well and free up some time for Laurel, who desperately needs a break. She's got plenty enough to do as it is. So thanks for noticing the videos, but we're still going to have my normal way of doing videos as well, which will be rough and unfiltered and all that kind of stuff. and then we'll have the ones with Daniel that'll be a little bit more polished. All right, let's see here. Yeah, Daniel is amazing. And this is Josh in the Grow 365 videos. You'll also see Josh, and he'll be doing interviews with other people. And he also is the one that's handling a lot of our day-to-day garden stuff, like using organic sprays to control a really bad pest for potatoes and squash and stuff like that. Josh just did a video on drip irrigation, and that was really awesome. Installing that it's a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Of course, since Josh did most of the work, it was even easier than I really thought it was going to be. we have a really good potato crop going. Just planted tomatoes and stuff. If you're really into gardening and you're wanting to really take your gardening up a notch, I think we can help you. I used to do a lot of that. And I know people that are a lot smarter than me, just like with the bee channel. I know a lot of people that are smarter than me that'll help me out. Yep, Daniel is a great dude, but he lives in Nashville, so it takes him almost 2 hours to get to where we're filming most of the time. But he works some long days. He does a lot of editing. I hate editing. And I'm just being honest here. We don't make money, like real money, on these videos. Right now, if we were calculating like what we're paying Daniel, what my time is worth, what Josh's time is worth, all this stuff, we're not making money on the videos. We do make money, but it's like, okay, it helps us sell more nukes. It helps us with the exposition. It also, anything else that we're trying to do as well. And so the YouTube is not the profit making machine. It's the marketing branch, I guess, if you will. And most people don't know this, and that's perfectly fine. But on one view, like there are people like, well, I've watched 100 of your videos, Cayman. So you've made a lot of money off of me. So I've literally had people say, you owe me an answer to my question because of that. I'm like, well, I try to get to as many questions as I can. Number one, you know me, I like to talk bees, so it's not that hard to do. But there's a lot of questions that get asked. I make off of 100 views, I probably make around 60 to 70 cents. So that's not a lot. If I could get videos that were getting 100,000 views, 500,000 views, yeah, we'd be really talking here. I'll do like the video on the bee suits. It's almost $40 that I've made off of that video. And between Daniel's time, my time, his editing time, of course, and all that stuff, I mean, we just don't make money on those videos, and that's okay. Thankfully, we've been able to figure out how to make it work through these other means, and now we're able to bring Daniel on board, but that's because of the conference that we're able to do more of this education. And I like to be open and honest with people about what's going on. And so we're not looking for anyone to feel sorry for us or anything like that, about, because we have a great life. I'm very thankful for what I do, but I just want to, people to understand so that, and the YouTube, the reason we started it was because I really did want to help people out, and Laurel really forced me to start it. Going beyond that, it was fun. We met a lot of cool people from it, and then I was able to learn a lot about stuff, and it has been helpful to my education. I've gotten a lot of friends. It's helpful to them. I've been able to promote some of my favorite products that I feel like have been underserved. There's a lot of companies that are really good at making products that suck at marketing. We've been able to help them out a lot. And then going beyond that, when we first started the YouTube channel, I was driving a truck full time, and we were just trying to figure out, how in the world do we leave this income and all of this and go into beekeeping? We knew we could make some money in beekeeping, but we were going to need all the help that we could get. And we needed help selling nucleus colonies because we could produce them. We didn't have a market. Back then it was really difficult for me to even be able to sell 150 nukes because I just had no marketing. And now I could sell 1,500 if I knew how to produce that many. I don't have the labor to do that. Laurel says I can't, so we won't. But long story short, we did the YouTube because it was helpful and it was helping supplement things. But it's always been one of the smallest parts of our income. So when people say that these YouTubers like Cayman, and I see these, they aren't real beekeepers because they make all this YouTube money. I'm going to make 3 to 4 times more money off of beekeeping this year than I will off of YouTube. So how do you, and all that kind of stuff. I guess I just needed to unload a little bit. I apologize. I am supposed to be downsizing, and we are. So what I did is I made a bunch of splits, sold nukes off of stuff, and then I've made more splits, and I'm continuing to sell. And I'm hoping that I'm fixing to have about another 100 colonies to sell. I really want to get to that 100 number, run like 60 to 70 honey production colonies, and then have these backup overwinter nukes. And that's a very manageable number for me, but it is really hard. I've got so many queens going. This has been a good year for making splits, and the weather's been good for getting queens mated. I've had really good queen mating success this year, but we've had this drought, but that's really good for getting queens mated. There's a lot of good flying days. So yeah, I need to downsize a little bit more, but sorry, Laurel. I'll try to do better. Chris, are you still on here?
Yeah, what's up?
I want, sometimes Chris has, he's got his kids and stuff and several things going on. So sometimes he's not able to always be available the entire time. But
can you hear me?
So Forever Be Young says, I'd like to be able to sell 15 to 20 nukes a year off my splits, breed new queens so the nukes don't have old queens. How? Market locally or through bee clubs? Yes, 100% bee clubs is the way to go. And, post in, maybe there's a state Facebook page, and that works really good too, because you're only trying to sell 15 to 20, which is not nothing. Don't get me wrong. That's a decent bit of change on the side. And I know a couple guys that do that run about 20 hives, and they try to sell almost a nuke per hive. And then they will make their honey crop, and then they'll make a few splits. So if 20 is their number, they want to go into winter with about 24 or 25 to replace any losses, so they're sustainable. And making your own, how? Early on, perhaps you just purchase queens. Maybe that's easier. It definitely is easier. Get a good reputable person and make your splits that way. But if you want to raise your own queens, that's fine. I don't know when your season starts, but for me, I can start raising queens safely towards the 3rd week of March every year. That's a good time for me to be dropping cells. I'm grafting before then, dropping cells around the 3rd week of March. making a split up of a merging frame of capped brood, a nice, beautiful frame if I can, a good shake of bees, and a frame of frame of food. So that it comes to about 2.5 to 3 frames of coverage. And then the foundations of the rest of them. Drop a queen cell, give them a little bit of feed. And as long as the queen comes back, they'll be ready to sell sometime towards the end of April, early May. And it's a really high quality product, producing them like that. Obviously, you don't get 100% takes. So if we're wanting to sell 100, I probably need to produce 120. And out of that 20 extras, I'm still going to be able to sell some of those, but you just trust me, you don't want to be the guy that it doesn't have bees for somebody because it's late. Oh, my volume's turned off.
Oh, now he has excuses, chat.
Well, what happens with this, and you purchased this for me, by the way, is this model, if there's not activity through the speaker over a period of time, it just shuts itself down. So once Sean was done, there wasn't enough activity. You were just back there eating bonbons, and you weren't doing your job keeping my speaker primed.
I'll note that.
That's part of your job description now, Chris. Chris will be like, this is the 10-minute reset for the speaker. Don't turn it around on Chris now. Chris, come on, man. 2 to 7 capped frames of honey, powerful nukes. Nice. Well, David, I'm glad to hear that. I know that you're not too far away from me, and you got some of the early nukes too. We were selling some overwintered stuff in late March, and that stuff, especially if you have some comb and stuff, they take off really good. And the Yankees that get them, they really they get a good head start. I was looking through Chris's nukes yesterday. I'm fixing to take them up to Ohio here in a few days, and they're really good looking, solid frames of capped stuff. I'm like, as soon as we get up there, they'll be fine. They won't be trying to swarm, but it's like, there's not 2 days to spare. We're going to have to get them in a bigger box and some comb. Maybe we'll film a video of Chris and I up there fooling with his apiary. And as long as, Chris angles the camera down a little bit. See, Laurel's really good as a videographer. Daniel, I'm having to work with him a little bit more because Daniel and Chris are both well over 6 foot tall, and the angle is improper for getting just the best footage, of course, the best footage. Laurel's just a way better in every way, way better to look at. I want to smile at the camera when I look at Laurel. It's totally different experience.
I don't want you to smile at me.
Not that way, you don't. You definitely don't. The stuff behind the scenes that Laurel has to put up with, there's definitely some, if there was an HR department, I would be in HR quite a bit. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, for sure. Oh, so David's been making some splits. David's one of those guys that's like, I'm just going to get a few hives of bees. I'm going to start with like 2 or 3, and now he's running like 20 or whatever. It's crazy. Absolutely, forever be young. And it really keeps beekeeping fun. The sweet spot, in my opinion, is finding a way to keep it to where bees can break even. And that's not the easiest thing in the world, especially for newer beekeepers, but it is possible. And when people tell me that beekeeping is an extremely expensive hobby, there is expense for sure. But if you go golfing, if you go into a lot of, let's say you're collecting cards, you're into baseball cards like heavily, or Pokemon cards or whatever like that, that's expensive. And there's a chance that you might, if you're really good, you could sell stuff. But with beekeeping, you can sell honey, you can sell bees. It's just the production. Can you do that? Can you keep your production semi-even and perform on a regular basis? And I think if you do that, you can totally be that person. There's a guy here not too far away, and he makes a little bit of money each year. He runs 20 hives. There's a couple guys I know. 20 hives seems to be a really good number. And one of them, they go on a vacation every year with the honey mite. He's like, we usually, between everything that we do after I've purchased extra gear and stuff, we usually, after taxes, he has an LLC for his. He's like, we usually are making somewhere around $3,000 to $4,000 a year and of cleared money. So he's like, we'll go on a good vacation, spend half of that, and the rest of it goes into whatever we need, more boxes, replace old ones, stuff like that. So it is doable. But that 20 hive area is a really nice place. 31 queen right colonies currently. David, you are, well, we all knew you were nuts, but you've even surpassed our expectations. Oh, you're live. I just started beekeeping this spring and I've watched probably 100 of your videos so far. I quote some of your wisdom and my kids think I'm a bee genius. It's all about the illusion, rocker boy. A lot of people think that I know stuff too, but it's just all part of the act. I hope that you're finding something useful from our videos. And I mentioned earlier, I have a Beekeeping 101 series on the Growth 365 channel. It's a different channel. So if you're looking for really basic, focused videos, they're coming out weekly, sometimes multiple videos a week. And that's on a different channel just so that's easier for people to keep track of. Each video has a link to the playlist. There it is right now. Any new beekeeper that you guys know, this is going to help them identify exactly what bee bread looks like, brood, what capping should look like, brood patterns, when to add space, when to reduce space, how to be as successful as possible, and how to be sustainable long term. Try to get you off the ground as quick as possible. I make no money at all. I paid for John Hill to retire and moved to Tennessee. Well, if in a little over a year you've expanded to 31 colonies, of course you're not making money. Came and get a step stool and the angle would be perfect. Yeah, I figured it was about time someone said something like that. That probably would help. We can do the Tom Cruise type of Hollywood thing where we make it look like I'm actually 6 foot or at least 5'10", and you hire these short actresses, or it's all about the angles. Yeah, that is the illusion, is the real magic. Question: I got 2 nukes April 4th, and both hives appeared to have rejected their queens. Whoa. So I requeened them both, and one hive did great. The other appears to be in super seizure within a week. Normal. So sometimes if the colony is out of balance and it gets so far old, it won't even accept a good queen good. So if you happen to be in that one and you see, oh, there is a queen laying, and then they're also trying to make super seizure cells, then sometimes you can cut those cells down. As long as you know that you have another queen in there, then you're good. But the problem with hives is once they start getting out of balance, it can be hard to correct it. This is a good time of year to do that. But a nuke shouldn't be rejecting their queen that quickly afterwards, unless they have expanded so much that they're trying to swarm because they've gotten packed out. And then you can get queenless that way, or get at least going through a requeening procedure. But your nukes shouldn't be getting queenless that quickly unless they're running out of space or something crazy is going on. Okay, so you couldn't find the queen and she was laying wonky brood patterns. Could it be brood patterns like laying worker patterns? Do you know what laying worker patterns look like versus, because you can have spotty patterns and you have like spotted. It's time to retire. You can have spotty brood patterns from laying workers. I'm trying to convince my wife to attend the Bee Expo in January with me. Any advice, Mr. Charmer, flying from Portland, Oregon? All right, so we do need some Oregon honey. That was like one of the states that wasn't represented at the North American Honey Bar. So first of all, Adam, tell her that if she comes, that she can watch over things so you don't overspend on any bee gear, because we do now have a shipping department at the Bee Expo for people far away, so that you can get the deals of the show and ship them back home to you, or something just super unique that you love, so that she can help regulate that. You can convince her. Louisville has some great restaurants as well. Obviously, she's your buddy. It's all about the words. At least with my wife and my mom and all the other girls that I know, words is everything, and how you use them. And I'm not really good at it, but if I really try and I think hard, I can turn the Riz on. Is that still a thing? Is Riz, and is Chris, is that still up to date, Riz, or am I
No,
old school now?
No, you're old now.
Dadgummit. What is it, like a 365-day shelf life on these terms?
Yeah, that was like 5 years ago.
Gosh, I guess
But
I'll go back.
I know people like you don't have the internet to stay up to date on things.
This is as technologically, like, if I watch something on the internet, it's bee stuff, or it's like how to work on my truck, or how to do more gardening stuff. I don't, and I'm just not cool. And I like it. I'm okay with that. So, talk to her. Sweet nothings. There's a lot of cool stuff for ladies there. And now, don't get me wrong, we have some awesome beekeepers that are ladies that are running hundreds of hives and very good at all sorts of beekeeping. But statistically, women like more decorative stuff. Guys are more simple and plain. There's a lot of stuff for women who are not beekeepers at the show. We have unlimited coffee, all this stuff. There's decorative stuff. There's awesome soaps. We have vendors that have flavored honeys, candies. There's all kinds of earrings and necklaces that are, of course, honeycomb and stuff themed. So it's not like just a bunch of random stuff, but there are definitely stuff that a guy like me doesn't really appreciate. Too much knuckle dragging. However, there are a lot of stuff for ladies there, and there's a lot of stuff to do nearby too. So tell her that you love her, that she's your buddy, and you don't want to be gone away from her that long, and she's going to have fun with you. Do it. Hey, Keith. Yeah, Keith and his boss is some of our like founding type people. They've been with us forever. And honestly, it really helps getting some of those, whether it's the wife or the husband, getting those non-beekeeping members in there, because they understand to a degree the community, so they can appreciate some of it, but they also will purchase some things and help the vendors go, okay, there is a demographic that wants this type of stuff. And that's been really surprising. Over the years, we've seen a certain section of the trade show morph into more of those cool things that someone like me would never think of, like Crocs accessories, where you have bee themed crock and flower accessories, where I wouldn't even notice that stuff. And so the Bee Expo continues to grow and get creative. It's fun. Not all girls like pink. That is very true. And there's certain colors of pink too. Like there's a nice soft rose petal pink, and then there's the burn your eyeballs out pink. So there's a lot of different types of pink out there. I didn't know you brought your sister Gigi. Huh. No interest in bees. We will pray for her and help her see the light. Looks like we're slowly indoctrinating her. You're doing a great job, Gigi, as being an ambassador to her. Now, it sounds like she's a great sister, getting to hang out, and I appreciate her coming. I hope that she enjoys stuff like the honey bar and all that kind of stuff. Those kind of people, I'm interested to hear feedback from them, really, because they think outside of us normal beekeeping weirdos. Brian Bennett says, I have hive beetle larvae in my frame feeder. What do you do about that? So this typically happens for one or two reasons. One, some beekeepers feed protein with the sugar syrup, and there's been some YouTubers that have really promoted this. I just don't know how this makes sense. Sugar syrup is very similar to nectar. Nectar does not have high levels of protein and stuff. So maybe you're not doing that, Brian, but I just want to get this off my chest. Sorry. It's bugs me. But there's a lot of new beekeepers that think that they should throw in a tablespoon or whatever of protein into their feeders, and it can cause fermentation problems. And going towards winter, that could be poor for bees, especially if you're far north. In the south, you can get away with all kinds of stuff. Your cleansing flights will poop out the stuff that the bees don't need. You just think that it worked because your bees are still alive. And this protein will cause small hive beetles in your feeders big time. Nectar doesn't have this stuff, so I don't see why our sugar syrup should either. If you're wanting sugar syrup to be as close as nectar as you can get it, the Apis Biologics product is the best. I mean, it is designed to mimic nectar as much as possible. But this might not be what you're doing, Brian. So the other situations I see where I get small hive beetles in my frame feeders is because I have bees that die in them. And this is kind of tricky because some people are like, oh man, my frame feeder killed 50 bees or 100 bees or something like that. And obviously these frame feeders are evil, and anyone that uses them is an evil person too. How many bees do you think die a day? A powerful double deep colony, 1,000 to 1,500 probably. So these old bees that are fixing to run out of gas any second, they fall on your frame feeder. And they die in there, and the beetles will lay eggs on any protein type dealio. They love dead bees. They'll get in there. Fermented syrup, they'll also do that, and they'll make it ferment faster. So it can be a problem. This is one of the reasons why people like to use products that can help discourage fermentation. Strong hives usually don't have this problem so much, Brian, when they're feeding fast and heavy. Even if you have a handful of bees that die in there that expire, they take the syrup down so quickly, and they'll clean the frame feeder out. I do find with the cap and ladders, you run into this sometimes a little bit more because you'll get a little bit, of a layer in there, and then it's hard for the bees to get to the syrup because there's such a small area. And then the beetles, of course, they just love laying on those dead bees. So I don't really like the cap and ladder method for that reason. You've probably seen my frame feeders where I'll throw a couple of sticks in there. I'll just cut them to size, just a little bit thinner. The problem with the sticks is they'll propolize them down, but I want enough sticks to where they can just barely access around it, to where you can't even get a bee body really in between the sticks and the walls. And if you do that, it's very hard for them to drown, but some of them still will. But these are probably bees that were fixing to die anyways. And it's just so much easier with that big open space for the bees to keep that area clean. So I hope that helps you. Keep me posted on that situation. So they're talking right here about different bee suit colors. I would really like to see some innovation here. I know it's a little tricky, and we are seeing stuff from like Foxhound and a few others. Most bee suits out are crap out there, but the bee suit video that I just released, I really feel like those are good companies, or I wouldn't have had them on there. The one I probably would be most concerned about from a commercial standpoint would be the Foxhound suit. The outer mesh, it does breathe so good. So a lot of people like it because it breathes good, but that thinner mesh is just not going to hold up in a commercial setting. I've seen some of the guys like the Homer whatever beekeeping channel, and they're talking about the Foxhound suits and commercial guys, it being great for them and good for them. But I don't know any commercial guys that use those for any significant time. The mesh is just too thin on the outside, and they are selling those, and they have a store that's selling those suits. Makes me think that there's an angle there that they're selling those for. And I don't even see a whole lot of Foxhound in their old videos either. I think Adam has some of the best gloves. People love the colors of his suits. A lot of my buddies wear his stuff. I think it's a great product, or I wouldn't have had it on there. But I'm thinking about it I want a heavy suit. I want something that's durable. And of those 5 that I reviewed, it's going to have the weakest mesh. Now, Adam is constantly upgrading and changing things, and it wouldn't surprise me that as time went on, that they just kept getting better. I would love to see like his suits also have some lighter colors as well, or somebody else. He's got the cool greens and the browns and all of that. I think maybe a tan one too. I would like to see some like light blues or some light greens, something that's a little bit lighter colored. Some guys would like those colors, and definitely a lot of ladies would like those colors. I know Laurel, I'd love to get that kind of stuff for Kathleen. They like that kind of stuff quite a bit. The problem of it is a lot of the companies that produce collared suits, they're just garbage. And it ticks me off. You guys have to be careful with suits because there's companies right now, you can type it up, Ultra Breeze suits. And there's ultrabreeze.com, which produces a really good suit sewn here in the United States. And then there's a Pakistani knockoff that says theirs is an Ultra Breeze, and new beekeepers will purchase that thinking they're getting a good product, and it's really garbage. There are some cheaper suits that can get by, but if you're wanting something that's really going to last you a long time, you're going to have to pay a little bit more for it. But I can get some of these suits to last me 3 to 4 years, and I guarantee you I'm putting what you would probably do in 10 to 12 years in that time. So I think it's worth the investment to get a quality suit and get that breathability. And more importantly, purchase from one of these companies like I mentioned in the video, and you can get customer service. I'm not a big fan of the Guardian suits. I really like the company as far as the people. They're too thin. And then, again, some people say they like it because they want the breathability. The Guardian bee suits are way too thin. I can take that and just rip it. And I know people who have purchased them. Some of them are helping me in this chat, and they just tear. And it's just too easy to tear. The outer mesh is the most important thing. And now I will say their customer service is great. All these guys, the American producers, if you have a tear in the veil, Terry is like, he'll get you another veil. If Adam has an issue, he will take care of you guys. And that's why I recommend, and a lot of times these guys, when you come to the bee show, I could get another 20 bee suit sellers easily. They're going to come from India and Pakistan. They're going to sell you a suit for cheaper. It's not going to be as good. And then when you have an issue, you'll never hear from those guys again.
Don't forget about Sri Lanka. I got 5 emails from them this week.
Oh, did you? Did you tell them to go pound sand?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
But Sri Lanka, yeah. Apparently that's a mecca of bee suits.
Well, and I have no problem with anybody from other countries. We definitely get a lot of other countries that come to the show. But what I do have a problem with is dishonest and people and liars. I really hate people who steal from the beekeepers in this industry because they've stolen from me and they've stolen from my friends and they've stolen from the good companies that we have, the family operations that we have. And it bothers me tremendously. And so at our trade show, if you're doing that, we're not going to do that. And some of the guys, they're also undercutting their dealers. Let's say they're selling to one of the companies, because most of those suits that I reviewed come from these countries, but they regulate it. They make sure that a quality product comes in. And then again, if you have an issue, that Foxhound, that Ultra Breeze, Comfort Pro, these guys are going to take care of you. They're going, and you can get a hold of them. And if they mess with me, I can totally get a hold of them too, versus otherwise. So we're very particular about the vendors that come to our shows. We have banned a couple of American companies because they also didn't do a good job with this. So this is not just, hey, you're from another country thing. There's a certain way of conducting business at the Bee Expo. And if you want to be on this channel, you better take care of the beekeepers because, we don't like you very much over here. Yeah, Matt makes a really unique suit. It's an air mesh, and I gave an honest review on it. Their newer suits are even better. One of my buddies, Talon, he's been in a couple videos. He's ran one of their jackets for years, and it's held up really good. He's probably gotten 5 years out of the thing, and he's works bees a good bit and has worked with bees for many hours helping on the side. And so their new suit's even better, the one that's now sewn here in the United States. The air mesh, the only thing I really have a problem with it is that the air mesh is a little prickly. And so if you're not wearing a shirt, which I like to not wear one when I'm working really hard, it's hot, it can be really prickly. And I don't have enough fur on my chest and my back to prevent that from happening. Bummer. but it's a really good suit, and we want the competition at the show. So Forever Young, my jacket is now 5 years old and it's time to replace it. It was my first suit. Now I know what I want. And your video the other day was fantastic help and timely. Well, thanks, Forever Be Young. We just, those are good companies. I wanted to showcase the different options. There's no perfect bee suit. There just isn't. But just like with feeders, it's personal preference, but hopefully it helped narrow things down. One of the companies I didn't have a bee suit for, and I had someone, multiple people like, where's the Ultra Breeze in this video? Ultra Breeze makes a really good suit and jacket, probably one of the better ones in the country. I definitely think it belonged in there. The problem of it is most of those guys, they sent me one to review. I had a couple that I purchased for myself, but the rest of them, they just sent them to me. And I can't justify spending $1,000 in bee suits for a video when I'm going to make $40 off of that video. And then I got to think about, Daniel's time and stuff. We're not making money off of that. So we can't have everything, but that one was one that was missed out. That is really deserves to be looked at by people. Doesn't have the best pockets, but it does breathe good. It is sewn here in the United States. So that's another good option. And maybe I think the best part about the Bee Expo is you can try on these suits. We have all of these suits there. You may like this one better than the other, and not everybody is the same and what their preferences are. So getting to try them on, sizing, I'm 5'6" and, ripped. Not everybody has these problems. There's Chris, and he's a lot taller than me. And, yeah, he's got long legs. I don't know what that's like. So different suits for different people. You can try them on at the expo and find out what works for you. Hey, Jeff, have used an Ultra Breeze for 3 years now and using the super suit in their jacket with the Man Lake Val. Interesting. Yeah. One of the things I just like the Man Lake Val so much. It's great. The suits are definitely oversized, and like Apis Tactical is the opposite. Their suits are a little bit on the small side, even for me. So if I was getting one from Apis Tactical, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a medium. If I'm getting from Man Lake, I'd be like, definitely a small and maybe an extra small. So this is again where it can be a little bit tricky. The videos we're trying to help give people an idea, but the expo really is the best way to do it. And I know not everybody can come. It's a big time investment and money investment, hotels, flights, all that stuff. However, we're going to try to do a program this year with bee clubs. We're still shaping up how we can make it work and all of that, but we want to get bee clubs to send a representative from their club and buy gear at the show. There's great discounts at the show. And I think every bee club should have a member come to the show, pick up bunches of frames and boxes for their bee club and haul them back. Everyone can save. And they also can share that knowledge. I think what we're looking at doing is in the bee club with that being a member of the expo or whatever, it also gets a copy sent to them, a hard copy sent to them of the recordings for their bee club exclusively to enjoy. Exactly. Awesome. Glad to hear. I really like the Vel. I just like how it's mounted. It's the only thing I would change with the Vel, if I could just do one thing, and I know it's a lot of work for these companies, but I've talked to them about that, is get a different finish. When the sun hits it at a certain angle, it does cause problems. So do a lot of the other fencing Vels too. So it's not unique to this Vel. But I'm just like, if we could get them to then put like a finish on it that didn't reflect so much, that would be just like, now we're talking premium. Hi from New Zealand. I've been looking into having a few hives one day. I've been watching a lot of your videos to gain knowledge. Just wanted to say thanks for the content. Hey, I really appreciate you taking the time to say that and for watching all the way from New Zealand. A lot of great beekeepers. There's some great technologies, and New Zealand definitely has some really cool things when it comes to the beekeeping world. We have a couple of vendors actually at our show from New Zealand. They always have some cool ideas and unique ways of doing things. I do have a Beekeeping 101 series that I've just started on my Grow 365 channel. It's a separate channel from this, and it's like super basic stuff, walking you through what to do. This channel is more seasonal and more intermediate advanced. And so if you're really wanting just like, hey, I know very little and I want to know about how to light a smoker and what this brood's like and what bee bread should look like and all that, this one's the best one. This is a different channel. And we have a playlist and we're dropping videos every week, sometimes multiple videos a week. The quality is really high and Daniel's doing a really good job. Oh yeah. That's what I'm thinking, Beekeeper Moon, the Manuka honey. It would be awesome. Let's see here. Well, folks, I told Chris we'd keep it around an hour and a half. I told Laurel we'd keep it around an hour and a half. I still have a swarm that I need to shake into a hive. So I'll just end with this tip right here. Over the years, I've hived who knows how many swarms, easily 100. And sometimes you'll stick them in a box and they'll leave on you. And it's super frustrating. A lot of times they'll stay. But I like to shake them on the ground and let them march inside the hive. But the problem of it is sometimes when you do it in your own yard, if they've been hanging for a while, maybe they've already identified a cavity they want to go to. So you put them in your own, you can put brood in there, you can do multiple things. And a lot of times they'll still go and leave. And that makes me very disappointed, very sad. So what I've been doing lately is I've been moving them. I have a secondary yard. Used to, I would just use my brother's place. It's like, hey, I just dropped bees over there. And he's like, but I didn't say you could. Well, you know, there's a jar of honey in it for you, that kind of thing. But I'll move them to a new location. And now I've started shutting them up for 2 days. I'll feed them. You have to feed them sugar syrup. They'll starve super fast. But I'll put them in a hive. That's what I'm going to do tonight. So I'm going to shake them at the entrance. I'm going to let them march themselves in. It's going to be cool tonight. They'll do it. There'll be foundation in there. I'm going to have a top feeder, be feeding them sugar syrup, probably about half a gallon in the next couple of days. And then it's an Apiary hive that I can shut up that has a lot of screens in it. And so they have plenty of ventilation, as upper ventilation, bottom ventilation. And I'm going to shut them up and they'll be in there drawing comb. And they're in a new location. So even if they had a tree cavity or something that they wanted to hole up in, they are completely reset. And I like never lose a swarm when I do that. Is it over the top? Sometimes it is. But I don't like losing swarms. This one right here is at least 6 pounds of bees. It is massive. I'm going to go the extra mile. This thing is going to draw a deep box in a few days. And it'll draw a double in probably 2 weeks or under. So whew, a lot of beekeeping to do. Hey, 2 weeks from now, 7 p.m. Central Time, we're going to do another live chat. Save your questions. Be prepared. I am losing my voice, but I enjoy talking to you. Thank you for listening to my rants, my weirdness. We're just all learning together, and I enjoy getting to see so many of you guys every week in the comments. There's several new people and all that kind of stuff. So keep with it, whether you're getting into bees, whether you've been doing this with me for years. Good luck, happy beekeeping, and we'll see you in the next video.